Word began to spread that the carpenter was back, but he was different. He began calling men to follow him: Peter, Andrew, and the others. A few days later, Jesus, his mother Mary, and his new disciples were invited to a wedding in the village of Cana. It was a joyous, loud celebration, filled with dancing and music. But behind the scenes, a disaster was brewing. In that culture, running out of wine at a wedding was a deep social shame that the family would never live down. Mary, always observant, noticed the servants whispering in panic. The wine jars were bone dry. She leaned into Jesus and simply said, "They have no wine." Jesus looked at her, knowing that performing a miracle now would end his quiet life forever. "My hour has not yet come," he replied. But Mary knew her son. She turned to the servants, pointed at Jesus, and gave the best advice in history. "Whatever he tells you to do, do it." Nearby stood 6 massive stone water jars, used for ceremonial washing. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." They filled them to the very brim. Then he said, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." Between the jar and the cup, the molecules of the water obeyed their creator. When the master tasted it, his eyes went wide. He called the bridegroom over, laughing in shock. "Usually, people serve the best wine first," he said, "but you have saved the very best for last." With a simple act of kindness, Jesus showed his glory. It wasn't a miracle for a crowd of thousands. It was a miracle to save a family from shame. The celebration of the wedding was over, and the Passover was near. Jesus traveled back to Jerusalem, but when he entered the temple courts, his face hardened. He didn't see people praying. He saw a marketplace. Men were changing money for profit and selling animals at high prices to the poor, who just wanted to worship. Jesus didn't just walk away. He braided together a whip of cords. With a roar of righteous anger, he flipped over the heavy tables of the money changers, scattering their coins across the stone floor. "Get these out of here," he cried. "How dare you turn my father's house into a den of thieves?" For the first time, the religious leaders saw that this man wasn't just a teacher, he was a lion. Not everyone in leadership hated him. One night, under the cover of darkness, a Pharisee, Nicodemus, slipped through the shadows to meet Jesus. He was a powerful man, but he was confused. "Rabbi," he whispered, "we know you are a teacher from God, for no one can do these signs unless God is with him." Jesus didn't talk to him about politics or the law. He looked Nicodemus in the eye and said something that changed history. "Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." He explained that God didn't send his Son into the world to condemn it, but that through him, the world might be saved. Nicodemus left that night with a seed planted in his heart that would later grow into bold faith.